Miss Angie, go ahead, and if you wouldn't mind to go ahead and begin. We're so excited to have you and all the members of the First Steps team panel that are a part of this tonight. I'm so excited to be able to hear kind of all the wonderful things that First Steps is doing.
All
I
right.
think we didn't get a thumbs up from Joe yet.
Okay.
Oh.
Hang on, it's almost done. Okay, we're good. All right. Well, we really appreciate you guys having us. My name is Angie Casey, and I'm the First Steps Program Manager for the New Vista First Steps Program in Lexington. We serve Fayette County and 16 surrounding counties in the Bluegrass region, but we also serve the Lincoln Trail point of entry in the Elizabethtown area as well. But First Steps is a statewide program for children birth to 3 who have developmental delays. Or medical conditions that put them at risk for delays. I'm going to kind of walk through a little bit about the First Steps program, but I don't want to take up too much time because we have such an amazing panel here that I want you guys to really hear more of what they have to say. And then hopefully leave some time at the end for some questions for you guys as well. But on our panel today, we have Amy Wynn with us. She has put in 15 long years at First Steps with me, and she is one of our district child evaluation specialists. So she is one of the first people that will come out to a family's home to do an evaluation with the child to see if they may be potentially eligible for First Steps. I have Candace King, who is a wonderful speech therapist, and I don't know how many years I've known her, but it's been quite a few as well. She's put in a lot of years with the First Steps program as well. She's an amazing speech therapist, and we're just always hearing great feedback from the families that she works with. So I'm so glad that you guys get to hear from her today too, kind of from a therapist perspective. And then we have an amazing mom, Marilyn Simpson, with us as well. Marilyn had a child in our program, and so I think her and Candace work pretty closely together, and so they're going to be able to give you a good picture of what early intervention services in Kentucky look like. Then we also have Sybil Cheek. She is one of our master coaches from the University of Louisville, and she works directly with our service providers in the state of Kentucky, training them on the coaching model, which is part of our state improvement plan that we have with the Office of Special Education Projects. So she's going to be able to kind of fill you in on that and answer any questions that you might have about the coaching model of early intervention. And so we'll just get started from there. That's okay. So as I mentioned, First Steps is for children birth to age 3 who have developmental delays. We are an educational program. We fall under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So a lot of folks, when they hear First Steps and they hear that we provide speech therapy and physical therapy and things like that, they automatically think that we're like a home health agency or a therapy provider, and that's not really what First Steps is. We are Kentucky's early intervention providers. We are an educational program to work with children birth to 3. We do provide all of our services in children's natural environments. So that would be like their home or their child care center, babysitter's home, out in the community. I know that a lot of our providers have done some sessions at playgrounds if they're working on gross motor skills. That's a great place to be out in the community to work on some important gross motor milestones. So we've done some sessions in those types of places. We provide the early intervention services that we provide are provided by a wide variety of professionals. We have speech therapists, we have physical therapists, occupational therapists, developmental interventionists. We even have some specialized developmental interventionists that work with the visually impaired and with the hearing impaired as well. So we have a wide variety of services that we provide. One service that every single family that enrolls, whether they're eligible or not, every family is assigned a service coordinator. Unfortunately, the service coordinator that's going to be with us tonight, she just had another thing come up and wasn't able to attend, but I'm going to kind of go over her stuff to kind of tell you what a service coordinator does as well. The pandemic brought changes to all of us, right? Some good, some bad. But because of the risk of a lot of the population of families and children that we work with, we now do offer services either in person or through tele-intervention. So we can do kind of a mix. We can do all in person, we can do all through tele-intervention, or we can even do a hybrid where we do some in person and some through tele-intervention. So that has really helped a lot, especially in this crazy time that we're all still living in. Melanie asked me to speak a little bit about families who are non-English speakers, and First Steps, we do offer interpreting services for any families that maybe English is not their first language. And so we do have like a language line that we use called InterpreTalk that we can use via phone, but we also have interpreting agencies that we contract with that can go with us to those home visits as well. So we try to provide as much information in the family's native language as we can, whether it's verbal or written or both. We just really try to do the best job that we can do to make sure that they are getting those services in a way that they can understand. Let's see. I have my notes here for Kristen. I kind of wanted to go over what a service coordinator does. But first, I want to let you know that anybody can make a referral to First Steps. I know that Dr. Allen had mentioned earlier that she makes quite a few referrals to us, and thank you for that. We definitely appreciate any referrals that anybody wants to send our way. The referrals can come from a wide variety of people and agencies. We get referrals from physicians, we get referrals from the UK Developmental Clinic, the neonatal graduate clinic, and then a lot of our referrals are just the parents calling in themselves. Either they've heard from their pediatrician or they've heard from a friend or family member. So a doctor's referral is not required in order to get things started with First Steps. So as long as the parent is aware that the referral is being made, and you can give us the general demographic information on the child, their birthday, parents' names, and their address and their phone number, we can get things started and give that family a call. The first thing that we do when we contact that family is to get their consent for a screening and evaluation and assessment. So the screening is the first visit that the service coordinator will do with the family. That's where they kind of go over a little bit in more detail about what First Steps looks like, get them to sign some paperwork. You know, there's paperwork with any kind of program these days. And then they'll do an ages and stages questionnaire screening, which is a parent answered survey to kind of give us an idea if there are some potential concerns for development. If there are those potential concerns, then that's when we would refer them on for further evaluation with somebody like Miss Amy Wynn. I'll leave the description of what evaluations look like to her, but some other things that service coordinators do, and like I mentioned before, every single family, when a referral is made, you're assigned a service coordinator. The role of that service coordinator is to make sure that all of our regulations, all of our laws and policies and all of that's being followed, but more importantly, that families' rights are being honored, and that we are making sure that that everybody on the team is doing everything to keep that intact. We're also there to be an advocate for the family, to make sure that we are determining what are their priorities and concerns for their child and family, and what do they need help with, instead of versus what do we think that they need help with. The service coordinator also will do a family assessment with children who are eligible. And that is a time where we can really get to know the family a little bit better. We kind of take the family through what a typical day is like, and maybe Marilyn can mention this later, what her thoughts are on the family assessment as well. But we kind of take you through what a typical day is like. And that really helps the family and the service coordinator identify some different times throughout each day that there may be a little trouble spot where maybe we can provide some specific interventions. A lot of times when we get calls from families, they may say, well, I just, my main concern is I want them to talk or I want them to walk. But then once we're getting into that family assessment, we can really see where their language is impacting their different daily routines. So we can come up with some more specific goals. And then we can also find out, is this a worry that's really a priority for the family right now? Because we want to make sure that we're addressing what they want us to address. Let's see. The family assessment, at the family assessment, we do develop some outcomes that are kind of vague, but just a little, that gives us an outline of how we're going to be able to start to develop the child's individualized family service plan. So in special education, you've heard of IEPs before, individualized education plan. So in First Steps, they're called IFSPs, so individualized family service plan. So we include the family in the plan because it is their plan for their whole family and their child. And the family assessment, the outcomes that we develop there, gives the service coordinator an idea of what kinds of service providers do we need to invite to that initial IFSP meeting. All of these goals that we've written, most of them seem like communication goals, but there's a couple of sensory goals here. So maybe I need to invite a speech therapist and an occupational therapist. So it really kind of helps us to begin to frame that team for the family. We invite them to the individualized family service plan meeting. The family can invite anybody that they want to attend that meeting. And that meeting is where we formalize all the goals that the family wants to work on. We formalize and agree upon what services that child is going to receive and that family is going to receive, how often the providers are going to come, and just kind of work out all of those logistics. So after the IFSP meeting, then the services can start within 5 business days. So it's pretty quick to get that started. So I mentioned all of those things. All of those things that I just mentioned happens in 45 days. So from the time that we make the referral till we write that individualized family service plan, we're required to get that done within 45 calendar days. We cannot delay that. Families can delay that. If a child is sick or in the hospital or they're on vacation or the family's not feeling well, they can cancel and postpone things. But at First Steps, we cannot. So if I'm sick and I have a meeting with Marilyn, I'm going to try to find somebody to cover that meeting for me so that we can have that meeting so we can meet that timeline and get those services started timely for that family. A lot of people always ask, what's the cost of this program? It sounds too good to be true. So all screening, evaluation, and assessment is free to all families. We do, if the child is eligible and they start receiving services, so they start receiving speech therapy or physical therapy, whatever's put on their plan, we assess all families' ability to pay. Some families will, they don't pay anything out of pocket because we bill Medicaid for all of those child services, and Medicaid will pay 100% of early intervention services in Kentucky. If they have private insurance and they choose to consent for us to attempt to bill private insurance, they also don't have to pay anything out of pocket, just for giving us permission to attempt to bill insurance. And then if they don't want to use their private insurance and they don't have Medicaid, a third option is a family share participation fee, which is a monthly fee based on the family's income and how many people are in their household. So this wonderful program goes until a child turns 3, but we don't want to leave families just kind of in the air about what the next steps are. So about 6 months before the third birthday, we start working on a transition plan that typically involves the public preschool, but it can involve Head Start, it can involve private schools, whoever the family wants to come to that meeting to provide some information. We want them to have all the information they need about all services available after their child turns 3, so that the day that their child turns 3, they have that plan already in place and that service is ready to start that day. That there's not this big gap, this big window of they end First Steps and now they have to go through all this eligibility through the public preschool. So if they go through the transition from public preschool and they are eligible for public preschool and school is in session on their third birthday, they can start preschool on their third birthday. So those are all things that service coordinators do. And they would probably kill me if if they knew that I summed it up in that short of amount of time. But I really wanted to just briefly hit on our program because I really want you to hear more details about what we do from our other panel participants. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy Wynn so she can kind of give you an idea of what the evaluation and eligibility process looks like in Kentucky. So Amy, I'll turn over to you.
All right. I'm Amy. I am one of the district child evaluation specialists, like Angie said. And in a nutshell, I'm going to tell you part of what we do because, again, the DCESs do a lot, and same as what Angie said, they would be like, that's really not what we do. So a child can enter our program having what we consider an established risk, having a diagnosis already of autism. If they've gotten that diagnosis outside of our program from UK, from Cincinnati, from Louisville, or we do a standardized evaluation, which we do the Bailey 4, and we determine if they're eligible with standardized scores. We do that, and we do a curriculum referenced test. The 4 of us have chosen to do the Carolina. And with that, we determine eligibility based on them having a significant delay in one area or moderate delay in 2 or more areas based on those standardized scores. If a child has an autism concern, we can do, and I have to keep looking at, you keep seeing me look up here and I'm like, what is it called? What's it stand for? Because we use acronyms all the time in First Steps. And it's the STAT, and it's the screening tool for autism in toddlers and young children. Of the 4 of us, there are 4 DCESs, District Child Evaluation Specialists, in the Bluegrass region. And we cover Fayette County and the 16 surrounding counties. We do the autism screener, which is the STAT that I just mentioned. None of us, our licensures won't let us diagnose autism. So if there's a child that comes in with an autism concern, then we will do an autism screener along with our evaluation. And this is only if a child has come in with a concern and they're not referred out. Their pediatrician has not made a referral to UK, has not made a referral to Hope Ridge or anywhere outside of First Steps. If a referral has already been made, we cannot do our screener and send it on for what we call an intensive level evaluation, because at that point they're already in process with insurance and it would be a conflict of interest to bill insurance twice. So we go ahead and let them do that, and we do our evaluation to determine eligibility for the program, and we follow and see what happens with that autism evaluation. So if we have a child that comes in and has not been referred out to UK, to Norton Children's Evaluation Center, because I am old and they used to be Weisskopf, we go ahead and we do the STAT, and we determine if they are showing concerns for autism. And there's a certain score that they have to meet on that screener. And basically, I love my job because I get to be the one who gets to play with the kids. For sure, I'm the one that gets to get on the floor and play with the kids. Even if others are coaching and doing virtual, I get to get down and play with the kids because I'm doing the standardized test or the autism screener or the curriculum-based testing as well. So I get to do that. And the intensive level evaluation, I digress because I like playing with kids. If a child is showing concerns with autism, from the high with that screener, then we will continue on and we make a referral if the parents choose. Everything is parent-led. We can explain this to the parent, we let them choose, and they can continue on to Norton Children's Evaluation Center in Louisville. And then they will be seen by them and they do the evaluation, the autism evaluation, and determine if the child does have a diagnosis of autism. And then we determine eligibility after that and help the family follow up with any resources that they need. And I think that's all I have to say about eligibility and autism right now.
All right, thanks, Amy. All right, next up on our list is Candace. And like I mentioned before, she's one of our speech therapists. I think I kind of neglected to kind of tell you guys about the coaching model of early intervention that we use in First Steps. And I know that Candace has had lots of positive feedback from her families on the coaching model. So I thought it would be great for her to be able to kind of describe what a coaching session looks like, because it looks a little bit different than your traditional medical model of speech therapy. So thanks, Candace. I'll turn over to you.
Okay. Well, I kind of looked at what I'm supposed to cover, so I'm going to try to not divert too much from that because I can go off on tangents. But the first thing was talk about experience and success working with autistic children and their families. First of all, success, I think, can mean different things for different people. And sometimes as we start working with families, their definition of success changes as we go also. Because success to me can be, sometimes it's, we work with families, we don't just work with the child. Like I said, it's a parent coaching model. So we come in as therapists and we don't take charge. We ask the parents, based on their goals that they've already designed. By the time we come in there, what's their priority that day? We work on those things. And sometimes, parents, just having them have the mindset of connection over instruction. I know Marilyn and I have talked so many times when we talk about autism, and connection over instruction is so important. So sometimes if that's all we get accomplished for a while in our visits, then that is success to me. And just helping parents sometimes, when we see families so early on, and that diagnosis sometimes is a little hard for parents to hear, not all parents, but, I think it's our job as early interventionists to let parents know that it is not a tragedy. Autism is just another way of being a human being. It's a wonderful, these children are wonderful and have so many strengths. And so we talk about that a lot in our sessions. And sometimes parents are a little further along in their journey, and success can maybe be jumping right in there. And we'll talk about some strategies to help them with communication. Our goal is to help them communicate in some way and to honor every form of communication, whether it's pointing, using pictures, using signs, and all behavior is communication. So we kind of talk a lot about that. And sometimes success looks like helping parents be advocates for their children in their circle. Sometimes it's learning to be an advocate with grandparents, hairstylists, right, Marilyn? She can maybe talk about that.
Ms. King, we also have a question from Facebook. I put it in the chat. It's from Tasha Smith.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I think Angela Casey just answered it, so I'll post that on the Facebook.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Sure. And as far as helping our parents even be advocates, I've learned so much from Marilyn. So I feel like it's such a wonderful connection we make when we work with our families. We get to know them very, very well. We learn from each other. And like I said, I've learned so much from Marilyn. She's been really an inspiration to me as a therapist. And then if I didn't really know what success, it's such a broad thing. So if you want to know about success in how many, how successful, are we in speech therapy with getting children to talk? Because as Angie said, everybody thinks, I just want them to talk. I just want them to talk. Well, I mean, it can vary because, there's so much research coming out about autism right now and how, I don't know how many of y'all know much about the Gestalt, and if I say that right, Gestalt learning language processors. We're learning a lot about that and how, they tend to acquire language in a different order and at a different rate than neurotypical children. Neurotypical children get the single words, just what we kind of think of language development, single words. Then you combine two words and then you have phrases. And, our autistic kids are whole part learners. They aren't part whole learners. They're whole and then they go to part. So we have, we talk about that a lot in our session. So, and there were, so we have just a wide range of success with that. Sometimes I have kids who blow me away and they're, in sentences by the time we're done. And some children are still very limited speaking, but they've learned to maybe speak in, or communicate in some other ways, whether it's pointing or pictures or sometimes like an augmentative type device or iPad kind of a thing. So we explore all ways, because my goal is when they start preschool, I don't want that therapist to have to start over with how can we help them communicate? I want to say we've tried all of these. Maybe that child wasn't ready for maybe the augmentative device yet or the iPad to communicate, but we've tried it. It won't be a totally new thing, and they can jump on, and add on to what we've done. Maybe we've used some pictures, or maybe we're still using real objects. So, many ways to communicate. And I wanted to throw out just a couple little, if I have a minute, like a couple of research things. And it's research on communication with autistic children. And one is, it's Kilmeyer et al. 2019. I probably have to say that so I'm not like, plagiarizing anything. But it says contingent imitation, which is you're imitating what your child did, what your child said. Maybe your child said cheese, and that's their script for I want to take a picture, or I want to take a picture with you. It doesn't mean cheese, these little scripts don't always mean literal things. But contingent imitation, you imitate what your child says. When they studied that, it led to increased social engagement in autistic children at age 2. Yay. I mean, that's awesome. And we can do that in our therapies. We can teach parents to do that. The other second thing is by Conway et al. 2008. And their research showed the amount of time children and their caregivers, not therapists, their caregivers, their parents, their daycare teachers, their grandparents, their caregivers spent in joint attention or joint engagement. And that is not eye contact. That is so very different. This is joint attention, joint engagement at age 2. So the time spent in joint engagement at age 2 predicted their receptive and expressive language abilities at age 3. This is exactly what First Steps can help families with. This is so exciting to me. Last little research tidbit from Abney et al. In 2020. They found a positive relationship between following the child's lead and later vocabulary size. Following the child's lead is exactly what we're going to show parents they can do. We aren't going to sit there and have these structured activities or anything that the child's going to do in our visits. We're going to follow their lead. I mean, we can have some toys that are high interest to them and have them available, but we follow their lead. And there's so many reasons we want to follow a child's lead. First and foremost, it builds connection and a trusting relationship, and that is what we need. If we achieve that in our time, that's gold. That's just gold. So that's kind of just my experience and success with working with autistic children and their families. The other thing I was asked to talk about is providing services in the home and what the session actually looks like. We do provide services in daycare settings, homes, virtual. I think we just, like Angie said, we have to include that now. It's been a part of our lives, and I think it's going to stay that way. And I will have to say, we have had extremely good success with virtual. I wasn't even on board at first. I didn't know what it was until COVID hit. I was like, I'm not doing teletherapy. I don't even know what that is. We all learn really fast how to adapt. And it's been wonderful because of our model. Our model is a coaching model, a parent coaching model, and it works very, very well. We've had great success with it. I've actually been so pleased and so surprised. Let's see. So yeah, usually when we go in daycares, it's still coaching. You know, we're still coaching the staff and the teachers, and usually they're very happy to see us, because if that child is having some difficulty communicating, difficulty with behaviors, they want help, and we're there to help them, because, you know, it would be the same, like I said, if you're in the home or the daycare, but they're usually very happy to see us, and we work as a team with them, and they're very, very wonderful to let us kind of watch their routines when we're there. How's their day going? You know, did we get to watch snack time or circle time, or, you know, maybe have a little table time, art time, whatever. And they're really great. And they always seem to want our input. So we, I feel like that's a great place for us to do some coaching as well. And I always ask the teachers and the parents as well, but daycare teachers, I know they have so many kids to focus on. I usually leave them a little sheet, like, in between my visits, here's what I want you to think about. So when I come back, you can give me some great information. What's been going well? What's been challenging? Has the child developed any new skills? You know, maybe, you know, in my case, I want to know about new words or new signs. Or has any skill kind of been lost? Does it look like they've regressed or anything? And so those are just the kind of things in a nutshell that we kind of ask them to talk about or to think about in between visits. And so we also, of course, work with the parent and the families. And with our coaching model, we kind of try to hit 5 points that, you know, after you've gone through the coaching program, there's like 5 points you kind of need to hit on during your session. So we always ask the parent, like we call it our beginning joint plan. Hey, you know, just kind of how things been going since our last visit. You know, what went well, what was challenging, new skills. What are you most proud of that your child did? You know, we love to hear the parents tell us those things. And then we always ask the parent, you know, what is your priority for today? We always want them to know they're in the driver's seat. We're here to help them. You know, what's your priority? That's what I'm here to help you, you know, do that. So then we observe, you know, how they interact and play. Maybe they're having a snack, you know, maybe they're playing, or maybe we go outside sometimes. It's just whatever they're doing, we're going to observe, because that gives the therapist a little bit of idea of, oh, what kind of strategies do we, you know, could we work on if the parent, you know, wants to do those things. So we do observe a little bit. That's part of the session. We do something what we call action practice, and that's basically, you know, if there is a new strategy and the parent wants to hear about it, we'll model it for them, and the parent can use it right there. That's the beauty of it. You get to try it right now, and we can see if it works. And if it doesn't, we'll find something else, or we'll think of something else together, you know, because it really is a team approach. And that action practice, just some examples what that might be. Maybe we'll learn a new sign together. Maybe we'll say, hey, you know, when he was trying to tell you that, and I wonder how it would look if we possibly gave him 2 choices next time, and maybe, you know, maybe do something like that. Those are just some things we might practice. So, and I'll have to say this, when I was working with Marilyn with her time in First Steps, she had the best idea. I loved it so much. I passed it on to other families. When we were working on choice making, she put like a favorite toy on, like it was just what her child wanted to wear that day. So two different shirts. So she had like a little car on each one. It was car or dinosaur, because I can't remember now. But that drew the child's attention to what we wanted, you know, him to choose between. And I thought that was just genius, because it wasn't just holding up the red shirt and the blue shirt. You know, her child may not care to look at that. But she put the toy that he did like on those, and he chose the toy, and we assigned meaning to that choice making for him. And I thought that was just the best thing. I love that. So, you know, that's those things where we learn from each other. We work together as a team, problem solve, because, you know, he maybe really didn't care about what color shirt he wore, but we wanted to instill that enjoyment of making a choice and getting something that you choose. So that was good. And then in our sessions, we'll have a time of feedback where, you know, parents can give us feedback, and if parents want our feedback about, you know, more strategies maybe, or things like that, we'll have a time of that. And then we end it with, you know, our joint plan again, which is basically, what do you as a parent want to work on in between visits until I come back? You know, maybe we worked on signs or choice making today, whatever that was. What do you want to work on between visits? And then the parent will, you know, think about that and tell us. And then we'll say, and what do you want to do even for the next visit? You know, is there a certain activity you'd like to use these strategies in? You know, is the challenging activity transitioning from playtime to snack time, or snack time to playtime, or coming inside from playing? Where's our challenge that you want to work on? And they'll think about that and let us know, you know, what they want to do. And that's kind of what it looks like in a nutshell. I have no idea when I started talking, so I probably should be quiet. I don't know.
Oh, that was a lot of great information. Thank you. And I love the strategy, Marilyn. That's brilliant. Yeah.
Before we go on, I do want to make sure that everybody actually hears the information that was exchanged via Facebook. So Tasha Smith said, I know it's a long shot, but do service coordinators have any training on religion, or can parents request one of their faith? And then Miss Angela Casey said, hi Tasha, our service coordinators do not have trainings on specific religions, but do take cultural awareness trainings. We will work with you to make sure you are respected and we can learn from you no matter what religion. So I just wanted to let everybody know that and have that on a vocal record as well.
Yeah. Families are our best teachers as service coordinators and providers. I've learned so much from families on culture, on strategies, on how to pick on what shirt you want to wear for the day, everything. So yeah, we'll do our best to work with you to make sure that we can learn from you and respect your family, no matter what religion that you may have. So. Or faith that you have. So next up on the plate is our star of the show, Marilyn Simpson. She is our parent, recent graduate from First Steps, right? Milo just turned 3. And so if you want to tell us about yourself and Milo, about your the process through going through referral, intake, the whole shebang, like what did it look like from a parent's point of view? And then what are you guys doing now that you're out of First Steps?
Sure. I just want to say thank you so much for including me in this. It's so awesome to hear everybody talk. Candace knows I love all the information. My name is Marilyn. I'm 26 and I'm currently in school actually for special education, because I just found my passion for it through actually this program. And Candace and Kristen, as our case manager, they just really supported me in my passion for it. So they do get to know you. And my son Milo is 3, or he just turned 3 in July. And he got diagnosed. We actually thought he was deaf at first because there's a congenital factor. So we had him evaluated for that. And autism was kind of on our radar just a little bit. He didn't really like to be put down in grass or anything like that. He wasn't babbling yet. But we had his hearing tested, and then they actually sent us to Weisskopf and had him evaluated. It was I know their wait list is really long. We just ended up having a super easy time with them because a spot came open, like I think it was like 2 weeks later, super fast. And then we heard from Kristen, so everything just kind of lined up a little bit for us. And he was diagnosed with autism. And from there, we heard from Kristen, and she did our home evaluation. And just like Amy said, like at the time we were in the middle of COVID, I didn't know much about Zoom. I hadn't used it at all. So we did it over the phone and through video call. And she just had us go through our normal day. I think she called it like 11. So it was a little later in the day for us, but we just kind of recapped what had already happened. And he wasn't interactive with us at that point. He kind of just played on his own. And he would let us play beside him sometimes, but he didn't interact with Kristen at all. So she asked me mainly a lot of questions, and she would talk to him. Just, you know, what does he eat for breakfast? How is he when he wakes up in the morning? What were our hard parts of the day? Which at that time, where my son is nonverbal, he pretty much just screamed all day as a form of communication. Hungry, thirsty, want to go outside, want to stay inside, whatever it was. So I was very stressed at the time. And I also could not leave because I was the only one at that time, because I had moved home from California, that could read his body language to kind of tell, you know, did he want to drink? Was he overstimulated at the time or anything like that? And so Kristen went through all of that with us. She was so sweet the whole time, super patient, because Milo did have a meltdown in the middle of it, pretty bad. So, and then after that, we had our meeting and we met all of our service providers, which was Candace and Lucas as an OT, and I cannot remember his development, Leah. So we had speech every week, OT was every 2 weeks, and Leah was once a month. And just due to COVID and some other health issues and stuff with me and my mom, we actually didn't get to see Leah very much at the time, but we did get to meet them. And then, so as far as that whole process went, I was super intimidated by First Steps in general. I had heard, you know, kind of like what Angela said, that it was almost like a home service program, and you know, it was going to be hard to make any changes or ask for what I needed. I think it had been from people who had seen it in the clinical setting, but it was so non-judgmental because I was going through a divorce, which was really hard, and my son hadn't lived here at all. So being home, back in our home with like my parents and his grandparents, was also a big shift. And our therapist took that into great consideration, because our goals were a little alternative, because his dad sees him through FaceTime, because his dad is still stationed in California. And due to COVID, we were in quarantine. So his grandparents also saw him through FaceTime. So that was one of our goals, was getting him to realize that FaceTime was not like a YouTube video, that it was an actual person on the other side. And you know, just getting him to connect through his dad, because it is harder through FaceTime, which I know is a lot of military families have issues with that. And then I have notes on the side I'm looking at. Like, and we did have a lot of last minute changes, meltdowns during the middle of therapy times, a lot, and they were in the beginning. And, you know, even just, it makes you so nervous as a parent to have somebody watching you or in your home, especially while you're dealing with such a difficult behavior for yourself, to sit there and not be triggered, and allow your kid the space to have that meltdown and kind of just be there with them and learn how to handle it. Candace and Leah were both super patient the whole time, anytime. And they kind of just sat back and watched how I handled it and how Milo responded. And then if I asked for tips later on, they would give it to me. And that was something that I didn't expect going into First Steps, was the the connection over instruction and also the parent-led thing. I definitely expected that they would be telling me what to do. I would have homework. I would have certain tasks that I would have to get done. So figuring out what to ask was one of my biggest obstacles as a parent. I was so worried about asking the right thing and not missing anything. I didn't expect to have so much support. I didn't expect for the therapist to become a part of our family, because they really did. Especially Candace, we saw her the most. Her and Milo have a really good connection, which was so enjoying to see, because I was the only person he had like a big connection with at the beginning. And then just the communication between the whole team with Candace and Leah and Lucas and Kristen, it was simple text messages, emails, phone calls. If I needed to change anything, it was not a big deal. And we actually had a big change a few weeks before we actually ended First Steps. Lucas went and worked with older individuals instead of little kids. So we actually got a new OT, and her name was Ruth, and she's awesome. Milo loved her on contact, so she got to see him after a year and a half of services. So it was really good, because he got diagnosed at 18 months. And then like the new ideas, like Candace said, with the cars on top of the shirt, because Milo did not care about shirts. That's one of our biggest obstacles, even with potty training, is he has to be interested in it to pay attention to it, and to interact with you. And even with playing, we went from no contact, I could not touch a preferred toy, to doing parallel play, and stepping through that. And I realized along the way that I had to earn his trust almost, and that other people in his life also had to earn that trust, to just even allow him to play. And even with Candace, like singing songs with her and stuff, the way that he interacted just progressed so much over time as we got to all know each other in a different way and experience that. And a lot, I will say, Candace did a good job, so good, of doing like her own research on the side, going above and beyond. And, you know, if I gave her information that I had seen, or a website or a book or something, she went and researched it. And if she found something, like a picture diagram or a website, she would send it to me, and we had that open communication so we could both do the best we could for Milo. And I will say he's had success, and like Candace said in the beginning, success looked so much different to me. I was so focused on eye contact, him being able to talk, being potty trained, being able to spend the night at his grandparents' house without me there, stuff like that. And through First Steps and just through our relationships, now I noticed success for us just looks like him being affectionate, or now he does pick out his own shirts. That happened since First Steps ended. He loves dinosaurs and sharks, so if that is the shirt he wants on, he will bring it to me, and he'll like hold it up to me. And a lot like Candace said too, the way his verbal has progressed, he would learn almost whole phrases, and then he would work down to a singular word and figure out what that word meant and go on. And he does babble nonstop now. And a strategy she taught us was just to, even if you don't know what he's saying, just make it up the closest thing it sounds like, and then follow it up with another end of the conversation. And the way that he connects with us now when we do that is so great. He looks us in the face, or he answers us back even if he's not looking at us. And I just never saw us getting there. When we started First Steps, I thought I was going to forever have screaming as a way to tell me that he wanted something. And now to just, if he wants a drink, he stands by our gate to our kitchen. If he wants a book, he brings us the book. Even to go out, he'll lead me to the door. And now he's even saying, like, go away, if he doesn't want his little sister near him. And it's just amazing to me how that happened. And then another thing that I really liked about our therapist is that when they would do the evaluations, if you have parents who are very scared of what those evaluations are going to say, even if they're very confident in their kids' own skills, I knew that Milo could understand what I was saying, but those tests are skewed for kids who don't have verbal skills, or even just some gross motor skills or problems like that. At the end of those evaluations, in their comment section, they would always put a very personal, like, little blurb about Milo, and that, this evaluation was not a full reflection of what they had seen in our home, or even just as a parent, like, compliments on, like, what I would do at home and reinforce those things with us. So I really appreciated that from First Steps, because again, I just thought it was going to be so much more clinical than what it was. And then just for sessions, we did online in home. Lucas was completely in home, and to be honest, they don't look that much different. Just somebody coming into your house versus being on Zoom. We did, log in, say hi, or welcome him in the door, and figure out where we're going to have that session for the day. With Lucas, we would normally be in our living room, which is also our play area. With Candace, I would take him back in our bedroom, and so he could be by himself for the first, I want to say, year that we were in services, just because I had a baby she was a newborn when we started, pretty much. So just to have a quieter space for him to be able to focus. And then we would go through the recapping of activities, and that can get pretty lengthy if we did a bunch that week. We're very big on outings in our family. We take them to the zoo, the aquarium, anything out in town, farmers markets. And we didn't when we started First Steps, but it's something that we grew confidence as we got more skills to be able to interact with them. And then we would do the kind of go through how Milo would respond to the activities or tasks that we did that week, the strategies that we learned. And then they would interact with them and observe me and Milo, how we would interact. And then kind of just give us little things that we could do that weren't, huge changes to your day. Just changing it from saying, like, can you say, or say this, to just modeling it anyway, so they don't feel that pressure. Because for kids with autism, sometimes just that simple word is too much pressure for them to focus or to perform, because they feel like they are performing. And that simple change just in our day-to-day made a big difference. And then we would just, after playing or anything like that, normally I didn't set up tasks the week before. We would just play with whatever he was interested in. We would decide on the focus for the next week, and kind of what strategies I would try to implement throughout the week. And I was not always the best with making social stories or his cards or anything like that. And there was no judgment the next week when I would say, I did not get the time to do this. I had finals or a midterm or anything like that. There was absolutely no judgment. They would just say, okay, we'll try again. Or do you want to take this off your goals list? And then we would just say goodbye after that. And then if I had a question, I could text during the week, or if we needed to change our times or schedules, it was all very flexible and easy to do as far as that went. And then his transition, we did have that meeting, and we did start talking about it probably 8 months to 6 months before he got out. We would just talk about it and what our plan was and what our priorities were going to kind of shift to. And I think we only have one major shift, is we wanted to include potty training, just so we didn't have to worry about his preschool having to change his diapers, because he's very orally fixated. He does drink water all day long, so he pees a lot. And that was one big thing that we kind of changed our focus on. But as far as speech therapy went, we kept the status quo focus, and we did drop our developmental interventionist so we could get some more time with Candace, which was kind of stressful for me personally, because I love Leah. She was super kind. But I'm not very assertive. So dropping that service, I definitely didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and I didn't want to make anybody feel like Leah did not do her job, because she did. And Kristen was so reassuring that it's not a problem at all, that parents do it all the time. You have to advocate for exactly what is good for and most important to your kids. And just that reassurance that, you know, advocating for Milo wasn't going to cause any problems or any hard feelings. And then, like I said, I guess my last point is just that all the therapists and even Kristen, they really get to know you, and they really do become like part of your family. And I know we live in the same town. So if I run out into Candace in town, she will stop and talk to Milo and me, and she remembers important things about us. And same way with Kristen. We've just developed a really good relationship. And even as far as the transition process goes, Candace has worked with kids who had transitioned before, and had, you know, reassured me about how good his preschool is with kids that have transitioned, and how good their educators are about paying attention to that kind of stuff. So that's all I've got. That's kind of what our day looks like in our relationship with First Steps.
What a rock star mama you are. Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you almost had me teary-eyed there a couple of times, and that's not an easy thing to do. So, well, next we have Sybil Cheek. She is one of the master coaches with the University of Louisville, and they are responsible for training all of our therapists across the state in the coaching model that both Candace and Marilyn shared with you guys. And so I just kind of asked Sybil to come and kind of tell you a little bit about what that, why did Kentucky choose this particular model, and what's it looking like? And I hear we're getting some national recognition too, so you may want to throw that out there. But all right, I'll turn it over to Sybil, and then hopefully at the end we have a little bit a video that's about 5 or 6 minutes long to kind of wrap everything up, to show you what our services look like. Okay.
Thanks, Angie. So I really appreciate Marilyn and Candace, because they really did highlight what coaching is all about. Offering caregivers that opportunity to participate in the visits, really finding out what their priority is, and trying some of those strategies together. And kind of an underlying theme, and one of the foundations of coaching, is developing those trusting relationships. So I heard both of them speak on that piece as well. So they gave some nice examples of coaching evidence there. But to talk a little bit about the history of why Kentucky is coaching, foremost, it's the heart of what you just heard, to support the program, to support caregivers and feeling confident, to support their child to develop and learn. But each state is required to have an action plan according to OSEP, the Office of Special Education. We do get federal dollars, so all states do report on lots of specifics about their program. And they were looking particularly for states to scale up or improve their quality of service. Even if it was good, they wanted to see us continue to have growth. And so committees came together and really looked at research, looked at what was occurring, across other states, and actually brought in some outstate consultants as well. And so coaching is just one piece of many different projects that are occurring across the state in early intervention. And it was really to assure that providers have understanding and research and opportunities to develop high-level skills to coach caregivers. And so the program, which you may hear of an acronym, we've all talked about, we have our own acronyms, is CEITMP. So it's Coaching in Early Intervention Training and Mentorship Program. And that is primarily through a First Steps contract, a collaboration with the University of Louisville. We have 6 coaches, and we are coaching currently all of the main providers within First Steps. So DI, speech, PTs, and OTs primarily. And we have covered about half of the state so far. We're moving to 6 different districts right now, and KIPTA, the Louisville area, is our last that we will be moving to in the future. So just so you have some awareness of the amount of providers that we have coached over the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years. So providers come into the program, which is 7 months in length. We do break it down in very small chunks, but it's so that we see gradual progression of maintaining new skills and habits, learning to coach. And one piece of their training, there's different phases. And so they get to learn about coaching before they even try anything within their visits. But once they do move forward in the program, there's an opportunity for them to video record a few sessions. They may choose 1 or 2 families to invite to participate in the recording. And that is focused solely on the provider skill set. And so the therapist gets to go back and watch themselves, kind of critique themselves. And they actually say that's one of the most valuable pieces. It's because whenever you're looking at a video, you really get to see what you would like to improve. And then a coach also reviews a selected video to provide feedback. And we do that in a strength-based approach, giving them some ideas and tips for either improving the quality of questions that they may ask caregivers, opportunities to provide a little bit more feedback to caregivers. And the ultimate goal at the end of the program is they can showcase that they can apply coaching in an early intervention visit. And we have a rubric that has several different indicators. Those 5 things that Candace mentioned earlier that we like to see in visits. And we have a minimum score that we look for them to be able to showcase that they are applying coaching. Following that, once providers have completed the training program, they will go ahead and be recorded, submit recordings occasionally through what we call a maintenance period. And so we want to assure that they can maintain those skills. We want to have that consistency across the state for quality services. And so that is the purpose of that resubmission of a video. And that's really according to the quality that they presented in the program. So a provider that scored very high on their videos within program will have a longer turnaround time for needing to submit a video. But we are there as coaches to support providers, just like Candace is there to support Marilyn. We're very flexible. We hold evening meetings, early AM meetings. I think Candace was one of those early birds, if I remember correctly. And are always there, you know, if they have a question in between times that we meet. But what this means for parents and caregivers is that hopefully we're seeing, and we have heard this from multiple agencies and providers themselves and caregivers, is higher quality services. And actually the underlying piece is children developing and coming out of First Steps with some great skill sets, because the caregivers are, you know, you all are with them definitely more than any provider is, and you know your child best. So it's just all those pieces that fit together that are really showing great success across the state. So if you're new to First Steps and you have not been through the coaching training program with a provider, they may ask you if it would be okay to record. You can certainly, it's voluntary, you can certainly decline that. But I want to assure that everything is HIPAA and FERPA compliant, so confidential across the board. And it really is to focus on the provider. No need to be concerned about what your living room looks like if you're still in your PJs in the morning. We have all been providers and know, you know, the life that you live and that we live as well. But that might be one piece that is asked. And I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I just wanted to comment on when the videos are submitted, they're also submitted in a secure platform and then also completely deleted once the provider finishes the program. So Angie also mentioned getting some national recognition. We are, I think, as we occasionally submit reports to OSEP, they have noted, you know, that they're very pleased with what we're doing. We do have other states that are very interested in seeing how we constructed and developed the program, primarily because we are training all providers and not every state is doing that or having the turnout that we are having with quality services. So we are presenting at national conferences and getting lots of attention and interest from other states. And that is due to all the hard work at the state level, the committees early on, our outside state consultants that we did have part for the first 2 years. So good things, you know, are happening in Kentucky with a lot of good hard work, and we're really excited about it. So with that note, I'll ask Angie if there's anything else you'd like for me to talk on for a moment, or if you would like to showcase the video, or if you'd like for me to pull that up.
I think showing the video is a good way to kind of put the bow on top of all of this, to kind of show you guys what First Steps looks like in Kentucky. And it is just so nice to work with such amazing people, parents, therapists. Like you see these ladies on here today, and this is just a small percentage of the awesome people that we get to work with in Kentucky. And it's so nice to have that national recognition because Kentucky doesn't always get that. And to be leaders in early intervention, it's amazing feeling. And so we are seeing the results with our children. We're seeing child outcomes getting higher scores, and children are having more progress. So we're just thrilled with how things are going right now. So we have a new video. This is hot off the press. This is a Kentucky early intervention video that kind of shows. Mel, do you have that you can share the link?
Share it in the chat.
Or Sybil, do you have it pulled up already?
Yes, I have it pulled up. If it's okay to, I have access
Can
to
you-
share my screen as well, so I can play it if that's okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just let me know if you're unable to hear it.
Elliot is 2. He is almost 3. He's very energetic all the time.
By all accounts, Elliot is just like any other very active, almost 3-year-old boy. But when his pediatrician noticed a speech delay, he was referred to Kentucky's early intervention system.
I feel like I'm the only one that knows, meaning I can't leave him with anybody else because they don't know how to understand what he wants.
His mother, Yesenia, wanted Elliot to talk and was looking for a speech therapist.
We started with his speech therapy, and he has came a really long way.
What she found in early intervention was much more than a therapist. She found a partner who shared her goals.
I work with families primarily. So sometimes people think of speech therapists as working individually with the child to do some magical thing to get that child to talk. And I'm going to let the cat out of the bag, but there is really not a whole lot of magic for children this age, right? The magic is in the interactions that the parent has with the child. Every single day throughout the day. That's where language happens. That's where speech happens. And that's a beautiful thing that I get to support.
Early intervention in Kentucky has undergone some dramatic changes over the past few years. At its core, it is still all about helping children with developmental delays learn. But instead of working primarily with the child, the focus has shifted to coaching caregivers in their own environment to support them to help their child develop and learn. The parent is the agent of change.
The more that we learned about brain development, the more we learned that children need multiple opportunities to learn new skills. And they have found that really it's through those routines that children learn the best.
It's those daily routines and activities. The early intervention process in Kentucky starts by doing a family assessment to understand the strengths, routines, and needs of the family.
It's more fun for us because we call it a family assessment, but most people call it routines-based interview, but we get to look into the family and their life and what makes them happy, what makes the child happy. So doing a routines-based interview, we really get an idea of what that family needs.
This family assessment, along with the initial evaluation, support development of priorities and services on the IFSP.
That we're developing plans, and it really is the family's plan.
For Yesenia, it means Elliot has learned how to drink from a water bottle, eat with a fork, and she's learned how to prevent challenging routines with solutions like offering choices.
You gotta take yogurt bites or Oreos? Oh, you want both?
All routines focused on the family's real life routines and their priorities.
So I used to drive to to a house, and I'd be thinking, okay, what is it that I want to do? What do we need to do next? But I was in the driver's seat. And now it's very different in the sense of me being really in a responsive role for what the family wants to do, the family's concern.
This more routines-based approach to early intervention with coaching is supporting more active family engagement and problem solving.
She will always ask me what my goal is for that day. And we have been waterproof. We were outside, we've done at the park before, a little bit hard. And we've done it at home, and we always go over what I think is more important for Elliot to learn that day. Or
what's the routine? All right, so then what are the strategies? What are we going to practice? What are we going to do during there at that time? And then I take a back seat and really observe those routines going on between the caregiver and the child. What did you think? What went well for you? What would you change? What should we tweak? And then we talk about it, and they may want to practice again, or something else has happened and we move to that next thing. And then we always end the session making a plan.
So while the child is learning, so is the caregiver, the provider being that important soundboard for them to gain confidence in trying their own strategies.
We are coaching the families. We are coaching the parents. Yes. Yes. So yeah, it's Yesenia and I working together to help Elliot. It's her ideas.
While Elliot loves playing at the park, it was a challenge when it was time to go home. So Yesenia made a book to show him all his favorite things that are at home.
The parents are more eager now. They're all saying, I know how to play with my child now. I know from the coaching sessions, this is what I can do. This is what I could try.
we did not know how to interact at all. Like, Elliot would not play with me. He had a really hard time. But now Elliot plays with me all the time. We play games, we do puzzles, we color together. I think we formed a tighter bond than what we had at the beginning.
A partnership in coaching, producing whole family results.
I think I'm gonna remember the most how I was able to help him learn all of these things step by step, because I want Elliot to succeed when he's older, definitely. So I think I'm always gonna think about this time, how I was able to help him reach his goals step by step. I would recommend First Steps, definitely.
I just love our new video. You guys are some of the first people in the state to see it. So I'm very happy that we got to share that with you. I think we just have a few minutes left. If there are any questions, we would love to try to answer some.
Angie, that video was amazing. It really
Isn't it?
was. Really, really great.
Such a cute family too.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I just have a question about how you all are reaching out to people.
Mm-hmm. So each point of entry across the state has what we call a child find plan. And so we are constantly going out. We try to do the autism walk every year with you guys. We do other walks across our district. We do a lot of community baby showers, back to school fests. And we reach out to pediatricians' offices, child care centers. We just try to get the word out as much as possible. That we are out there. We want to make sure that we find all the children that need us. So, yeah, if there's any other opportunities that you guys have for us to share about our program, we would be happy to. And I'm hopeful that we will see you in October at the walk.
Yeah, my son is, he's older now, but when he was about the right age for first steps, we found out about it just a little too late. And part of that was we were in Eastern Kentucky. We were, husband was in denial. That didn't help matters. But there were obvious delays. We were told he's got a big head and little feet. He'll walk soon. He's saying some words, he'll talk soon. And then, 3 years old, and he's only saying no consistently and nothing else. And so
I think we've tried to do a lot of education in the community about that as well. And with, know the signs, act early out there. I think more pediatricians know that acting early is very important. I know, Melanie, when I met you, I think Jay was 5. So things sure have changed a lot over the years, but I remember back when I first started in early intervention, a lot of pediatricians would say, let's just wait until he's 3. Let's see what happens, and I never could understand what the magic number of 3 was, because that's when our program ended. And so they would miss out on the whole early intervention piece.
yeah,
but
we got told that.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
exactly
feel
what
like
we
that
were told.
we're seeing that anymore. I think pediatricians are more educated about autism. We're seeing a lot of pediatricians use the MChat at their well child visits. So I think we've turned the corner on that.
Oh, it's so powerful too. If
And
you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it's important to know, for first steps, you don't have to have a diagnosis of anything to use that, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
Because
it's
there are
for
long waiting lists for everywhere to get a diagnosis.
Yeah, our program is for any child that has a developmental delay. So it can be, one single delay in one area, or it can be multiple delays in all 5 areas. And you don't have to, and, some children might come in and they might never get a diagnosis. They might just have a delay and they get caught up and they exit the program, and that's great. That's what we want. Some children may come in, start out with just having a developmental delay, and then they may eventually go and get a diagnosis of either a medical condition or autism or something like that. So yeah, you do not have to have a diagnosis to get services. You just have to have a child that exhibits the delays.
I was gonna say, I love that video. It's very accurate from the parent side. Like, it's not word for word how I felt, but I think too with the coaching model, as far as outreach goes, it's changing the way parents see first steps. So like I said, my nephew had done first steps, and he had a few different diagnoses, and my sister had a harder time with it when he was coming up into the program. I have had friends who had also misconceptions about how the way it works, and I've been able to educate them on the process and how that coaching model is working, and how it's made me feel as a parent that I am the one that gets to teach him those skills, and that's really important for parents. So I think it's awesome.
I think that's awesome too. I just, I was also wondering, do you all have like brochures that you put in places like doctors' offices, pediatricians' offices? Because I know a lot of people think that parents don't pick those up and read them, but I guarantee you they do.
Yeah,
they do. I'm one of those parents who's like reading everything. I might put it back because, save planet, save paper. I don't need to necessarily hold on to it. I might take a picture of it with my phone. A lot of people do that now. But also, I think it would be probably beneficial to share those things on our listserv as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely send some things to you guys if you want to share out. We are in the process of getting ready to change the look of our child find materials. So we're very limited on what we have remaining because we're waiting on the new logos and things like that to come out.
We're kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
I mean, you see my picture, that's our new logo.
That's your new logo.
That's our new logo.
Yeah, so I do have some information that I can share, and then when we get our new stuff, I can share that as well. So
I just love how though that when Miss Marilyn was talking, as well as Candace, really everybody, how you wrapped yourself around that parent, you know, and as they on the journey with their child, that was beautiful. And it's so important because there's some folks that are just scared to death, and some have a really hard time with some of the things that they are going through and learning how to do new skills. And so it sounds like you all are very, very much very responsive to different types of parents, you know, and I think that's really beautiful.
I think if you have a child that's typically developing, you know, the parents are experiencing all those first, right? So the child walks to the mama first, or mom or dad hear the first word. And so before the coaching model, I think we had a lot of providers, therapists that were getting those moments. And now that we have the coaching model, I think we're seeing our families be able to experience that, that, you know, they're the ones coming up with the strategies, and that they're the ones having that moment with their child. And it's not being taken away by that clinical model. Not to say that the clinical model is not appropriate for some children, because it definitely is to address some medical conditions, but just within our coaching model, I think it's wonderful.
And I wanted to say too, another parent said something to me, you know, she's been on this journey of, you know, the coaching model with us and teletherapy. It was another parent, and something she said has always stuck with me. And she said, you know, there's no one else I can talk to who will celebrate my child's small, you know, gains with. And she said, you know, how sometimes, you know, you're talking to parents who have the typical developing neurotypical child, and she can't celebrate with them. They do not celebrate with her the way, you know, she needed them to. And I feel like First Steps, and especially our coaching model, helps us to come alongside that parent and celebrate those little, you know, all those little gains and those successes. And we're so proud of our parents, you know, when we do that. They just, you know, parents just are wonderful to work with. So it's an amazing thing. And like I said, Marilyn was just, I learned so much from her. And I don't know that she highlighted well enough how much she grew as an advocate for her little guy to extended family who had different ideas about how she should be, you know, training him, disciplining him, all this stuff. And she really blossomed as such a confident mom and advocate for him. And she is making such great headway with extended family now. People you know, kind of more hardcore people who Marilyn has so gently and effectively educated them on how to interact with Milo. And it's been really beautiful for me to see, and such an inspiration, you know, to see her take this above and beyond, you know, her little circle of just her and her child. It's grown such a ripple effect. It's been really beautiful to see.
That's beautiful.
Well, Marilyn, we look forward to calling you a colleague someday.
Yes, his preschool's already on. But we did the small successes, like she was talking about. Have been a single mom for almost as long as my son was been diagnosed, and it was a very hard situation, and I was pregnant at the time. And just knowing every week that I was gonna, you know, see Candace, and that, you know, even if our family wasn't as involved, I would get to tell her, you know, Milo went over to the gate and asked me for a bottle, or he brought me a pack of gummies, or just the first time he picked a shirt, the first time he rubbed my face and like gave me a little face hug. Those are things that I think sometimes you can take for granted so easy, like when you're pregnant and you think, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to have A, B, C, D happen when it's supposed to happen. And then when it doesn't, you kind of have to grieve it a little bit and have somebody say, it's okay that isn't what happened. That's not Milo's progress, but this is what he's doing, and kind of refocus you. If you can't do that for yourself, or you're learning how to do that for yourself, is awesome.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Well, and I know it's 8:30, so Mel, I appreciate you inviting us and letting us take up your whole meeting.
No, I love it. It's been really helpful, and we can have it on the YouTube channel, and maybe you can, as you guys talk with other families, you can direct them to that place as well. So that, because I think it'll be a nice resource in case people have questions and concerns.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having us.
Okay, well, thank you for coming. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
I
Yes,
guess I
thank
should give
you.
our phone number.
Oh, that'd be
Did I
good.
put that in a?
Yes, please do.
If you know anybody that wants to make a referral to First Steps in the Bluegrass area, you can reach us at 859-271-9448. So.
And if we have people that come in from southeastern Kentucky or other areas, if they were to call your number, would it be okay to you guys to give the point of entry for whatever
Sure.
area county
Yeah.
that they're in?
Mm-hmm.
That would be great.
Be happy to.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for letting us film and, make this resource available to people who just couldn't be on the meeting tonight.
No problem. And thank you, panel.
You guys are great.
All
Okay,
right.
I'm going to end the Facebook Live and the recording now.